Hi, welcome to the first in a series of video tutorials for VirtualRig Studio Pro. In this video, we are going to run through a few of the basic tools and the interface of VirtualRig. But to get us started, we're going to need an image, and we're going to hit File, New, and bring up this image of a road. And it's very symmetrical. Now immediately we get the hand. These tools are very similar to Photoshop, with a zoom tool, a zoom out tool, and a zoom to full extent tool, or the shortcut key E. We're going to go back to the hand, which is H. I'm going to try and use the shortcut keys as much as possible here because they are much quicker than continually going up and hitting the tool icons. Now, first of all, we need to set where our renders are saved, and to do that, we're going to go up to this tool icon, which is Render Settings, or the shortcut key is S, and we get our dialog box, hit this folder icon, and we're going to hit grab a new folder called Renders. You can call it anything you like. Save. Now we get a few different file format options here. I'm going to choose JPEG and quality of 80, and we can either do an image output resolution of the full image output resolution, which is about 5K, or a preview. We're going to say with preview. It automatically changes the scaling to nearest neighbor, which is much quicker, by cubic, which is much faster. Much better quality, but it'll be much slower. That automatically comes on with the full image resolution. With preview, it changes to nearest neighbor. Keep that as is because it works really well. Now, there's a couple of different render options here. One is blur, the other is curvature. Curvature will give us a graphical representation of the blurring that's happening within the VirtualRig render. So if you've got problems where the blur isn't where you want it to be, you can hit the curvature option, and you can see where your blurring is happening or not happening. For this, we're going to keep it as render. As blur. And so let's just render that. And as you can see, there's absolutely no difference to the original file. What we need is some blurring going on. And for that, we go up to this tool here, which is called a vector, or the shortcut key is D. So click that. To create a new vector, we click and then drag. Now, the vectors will create a lot of blurring within a short space. So we actually only need probably about that much to create all the blurring you'd need. So let's just hit render there, or R. And as you can see, it does take quite a bit longer with a lot of blurring going on, and it's just massively blurred. So for that, it's too blurred for what we want. We're going to close that down. We're going to hit this tool, which is the Select and Move Objects tool, or V for the shortcut. And with that, I can drag that down a lot, make that a lot shorter, and we'll hit render again, and we can see the difference between a short vector and a long vector. So the shorter the vector, the less blur; the longer the vector, the more blur. Now you may have noticed that this middle point here lets me curve things. In fact, I'm going to just extend that up a bit more so we get a bit more of an idea of what's going on. If the road was curved, I can pull that either left or right, up and down, and I can follow the curve of the road. Now, obviously this image is straight, so what we want is a straight vector. And here, if I've accidentally hit that, but I want it straight, we can go up to this tool icon here, which will straighten selected vectors and curves, or use the 9 keys shortcut. So we're going to straighten that. Okay, the other options we have with vectors is to zero out their length. Now, zeroing out the vector's length will effectively create a stop on the blurring. So we can zero that and no blurring will be happening, which can be handy. Now, I'm going to show you another blurring tool. We're going to delete that. This is actually called the blurrer, this orange key here. We're going to hit that, and again, it's a click and drag. In fact, I'm going to do 2 just to give us an idea. Maybe give us a closer idea of what will be happening with the blur. Again, the length of the blur doesn't determine how fast or how slow the blurring will be. It's these control points. Now, to get to the the select tool, I can press and hold the Alt key, and while I'm in the blur tool, and I can move these control points. Now this end control point will effectively tell me that, well, will give me no blurring at this end up here. In fact, I'm just going to drag those up to that vanishing point. The start arrow here controls where the blur starts from. And the longer that is away from the actual starting point, the more blur that'll be happening. The closer it is, in fact, we'll bring them right back down to the starting point, hit the R key for render, absolutely nothing has happened. What we're going to do is bring that about midway through to there. No, we want that. And now hit the render key, and as you can see, we've got a nice graduation of blur from the start point, the foreground, to the background, which is pretty much what we want. We can add a couple more in, and we'll get an even more effective idea of virtual blurring. By using these control points, it controls how much blurring I have in the foreground and how much blurring I have in the background. So I don't want any blurring at all happening in the background. I'm going to move all of those right to the end point. In this background, I don't need as much. In this foreground, I need a bit more. Okay, and we'll hit render again. And there we have, coming on, rather nice looking render. This tool here will bring this up in my default image browser, which is Photoshop. And as you can see, it's not looking too bad at all. It's still in its preview resolution, so if I was to do this in bicubic in full resolution, it will look a lot better. Okay. So the other options we have here is to hit the V key again. We can select all, and we can hit that cross key, which deletes everything. We'll do that. Or we can go back, undo, there's Apple Z, or Control Z on the Windows. And there you have the basic elements to get your blurring started. Now the other options we have are the project settings, and we can hit that. This box lets me change the color of the vectors or the selection or the blur. So if you have got, say, an orange road, say it could well be the color, your background color is orange, we can change that so it makes it a lot easier to see. So let's have a bright green, and we're going to press OK, and all the blur is turned to bright green. Now our speed coefficient is how fast we want the blurring to look. Now at the moment it was looking pretty fast, so what we can do is drop that down, and we're going to go at half speed, which is a really effective way of sorting out shutter speed effectively. So let's just render that one again, and as you can see, it's going at half the speed as what it was before, and we can hit the previous picture button and it can go back and we can see what it was, or this one, which is not quite as fast. A really handy option. Let's just go back to those project settings. Our vector curve segments gives more segments within the vectors and gives more accuracy. If we want them less, we can take them less and it will render faster. I found these settings of 10 and 20, or 20 for the blurs, to be quite good. Our margin approximation looks at the edge of the image and sorts out how much blurring is happening at the edge. Mirror works the best. Our spherical image mode sorts out the HDRI images. Now we'll be doing an HDR video in due course, but for this it's just the introduction. We're going to hit E again, which takes us back to the full zoom extent, and bring that through there. So I hope that's given you an idea of how to work VirtualRig Studio Pro. I'm going to be doing a couple of other video tutorials on images and and an HDRI spherical image as well. So enjoy VirtualRig Studio Pro.